Members of the commission, before we call to order tonight, I believe Chris or Stacy are both noted that Mr. Garitano will not be available tonight to chair the meeting. And so to address that, we need to elect an acting chair. So if there is any volunteers. If someone could put that in a motion form. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstain? Congratulations, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, if you would like to call the meeting to order, we're ready to go finally, and my apologies for the delay. Some days Zoom works for me, some days it doesn't.
Okay, we'll call to order the meeting tonight of the Wildwood Celebration Commission, Wednesday, March 1st. Do you have any opening remarks, Mr. Finich?
Nothing prepared, ma'am, but thanks for coming, and we do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a roll call of the members, please?
Commissioner Helfrey,
Here.
Commissioner Jailing,
Here.
Commissioner Hudson,
Here.
Commissioner Coleman,
Here.
Commissioner Shrimp,
Here.
Commissioner Siebert,
Here.
Council Liaison Garitano, and myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, can we have an approval of the minutes from January 4th? Karen makes the motion. Can I have a second? Sharon makes a second. Roll call vote or vote verbal approval? Which would you like? Voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. Thank you. Mr. Vinich, do we have any public comments?
Madam Chair, there is no one attending via Zoom tonight, and I believe if I look behind me, there's no one in the council chambers either.
Okay, great. Then moving on, we'll have a discussion of the 2023 Celebrate Wildwood event.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, as you'll recall, the City Council at the conclusion of 2022 set out a couple of charges for all of you. One was to try to increase revenues, and the second was in face of declining expenditures from the council. So this year, instead of our traditional $100,000, we have $90,000, and the council asked that we raise as much as $30,000 in revenue. Acknowledging that, the commission began a process of trying to understand where we could increase revenues, and we've spent a couple of meetings discussing that in detail. And tonight, based upon a number of questions, comments, and requests for additional information, Stacy, Chris, and I have prepared a set of memos for you. And the memos kind of go through all of the different components that were discussed. And for the most part, we think we've captured all of them and provided responses for the most part that hopefully will help in our discussion tonight. The department doesn't want to minimize what's in the content of the memorandum, but over the course of our discussions with other entities and the information we received from the high schools regarding craft fairs, talking to other parks and recreation directors, generally speaking, the Department of Planning and Parks thinks that we should create just a universal fee for all attendees. That being whether you're a not-for-profit, a governmental agency, a vendor, whether food or beverage, a artist, author, or crafter. And we believe that amount should be $100 based upon our research. It's substantially more than some have paid in the past. So there probably will be some that think it's too much. And certainly the majority will probably ask why. And the rationale behind it is at this time, as you can see from our research, not-for-profits pay no fee at all. And certainly that was the intent early on. But again, given our circumstances, we know we have to address it in a different way. When we looked around craft fairs at the high schools, they charge anywhere from around $75 to $90. And then there's add-ons as well for electric, etc. And for the most part, they seem to do very well with those charges. If you take into account that we'll be charging everyone $100 flat fee, that could raise up to $10,000 additional dollars this year. We had about 100 booths last year. And so 100 times 100 is $10,000. You take into account our normal level of sponsorships, which is about $15,000 to $16,000. We're about $25,000. Also, we did have a conversation with one of the leadership members of Pond Athletic Association, and we explained to them that they would now be paying a fee just as everyone else. So in this case, it would be the flat rate of $100. And then we did talk about revenue sharing. One of the questions the commission had is, how was it handled at the barbecue bash? Frank Schmier, the organizer of that, had the Rotary Club participate, and they were somewhat of a charitable organization, much like the Pond Athletic Association. And they did it on a sliding scale. And so for the most part, if the sale of beer or products from that booth raised anywhere from $100 to $500, generally the split was 85-15, meaning 85% to the organization, 15 to the organizer, in this case, St. Louis Home Fires. That rate then was carried over to, it was a 100 to 3,000. At 3,000 to 8,000, it was a 20% revenue share with the organizer. And then it just kept going, 8,000 to 12,000, 25%, 12,000 to 16,000, 30%, 16 to 18,000, 35%, 18 to 20,000, 8 to 40%, and then finally 20 to 25,000, it would be 50%. So they used the sliding scale. We asked that leadership person, Bob Kramer, first to tell us what he thought a fair revenue share would be. We've not gotten a response yet. We knew he had to talk to the other leadership on their board. And so from that perspective, we're still waiting. But suffice to say, we think if we do proceed forward with sharing in the beer sales in association with Pond Athletic Association, a sliding scale may be a reasonable approach. We believe, and we don't have a hard figure yet, that the Pond Athletic Association raises somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000. So that would be a 25% cut. If it's on the high end, that would be about $3,000. So now we're close to $28,000 in our goal toward $30,000. So we think we can get very close, if not exceed it, again, because we hope to have more sponsors this year based upon another agenda item here shortly on changing our sponsorships and looking at different approaches. So we are recommending tonight, that being the Department of Planning and Parks, that regardless who you are, what you're intending to do or not intending to do at the event, you'll pay $100. For that $100, you'll get a booth space, you'll get a table and 2 chairs, and you must bring your own tent. If they want an additional space, it's another $50. And if they want to rent a tent, it'd be $25. Thereafter, the sponsorships would, again, be a line share of the amount that we raise. And then with revenue sharing with Pond Athletic Association, we could get very close to that $30,000 amount. The question that remains, and it's a question only the commission can answer, do you want to revenue share with the other food and drink vendors? We were kind of mixed on that ourselves, and we thought it best to have that discussion with all of you. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned for the $100, they would get the booth area, they would get a table, 2 chairs. They would not get a tent. Would
No.
they get electricity?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you said that the tent would be about $25.
If they wanted to rent a tent, it would be $25. Yes.
Okay, and just for the sake of this conversation, remind me, how much did we charge the regular people, not the not-for-profits, but how much were we charging them about before?
$50.
50? So we doubled it, but we're taking away the tent.
Well, most didn't use the tent.
Oh, okay,
Most of the crafters, the artists brought their own tents because they have a certain way to set up.
got it, okay.
Saying that, a lot of the not-for-profits and the governmental agencies like Missouri Department of Natural Resources, Missouri Department of Conservation, we provided them some tent.
Okay, so that would be that. And then as far as you were talking about the revenue sharing for the other food and beverage people, you mean the people that were in the grass area that are going to have to now pay $100? And then
Plus.
now you want a revenue share with them,
Yes,
in addition to revenue sharing with Pond.
yes.
And is Pond going to be the one that they have the sole beer?
They have in the past.
Mhm.
The others, I shouldn't say that. They've sold, let's say, the Anheuser-Busch products. We've had others like Benedetto's on Main. They'll sell the craft beers. And then we had another, I can't think of the vendor's name, but Chilex, they sold like the craft beers as well.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was a question from Mr. Kramer, the representative from Pond Athletic Association. If we revenue share, are you going to require others to revenue share? And
Mhm.
so it's like, well, we haven't reached that point in the discussion and the decision's not been made, but certainly that's something on their mind.
And the sliding scale has not been set yet.
No, what I provided you is just what Frank Schmier, the organizer of the barbecue bash, worked out with the Rotary Club.
So if you're asking our opinion, I will just say that my opinion would be that I would revenue share on the alcohol beverages only. I would not do it on the food. Because I think that some of those people, that's their business. So that would be like, in my mind, that would be like saying to the crafters, you have to give us a percentage of your, so I would just say for the alcohol, that's my opinion. So thank you. Karen?
I guess my question would be, why would we let Pond decide? You have said, well, what do you ask Mr. Kramer, what do you think he would want to pay? Did I get that right?
Yes, I thought it appropriate to say, what would you think? What would you think a fair percentage would be? I thought it was appropriate just from the standpoint that they're a major recreational player in the area. They've been here since 1964, and I just didn't feel like the commission nor the department would want to necessarily dictate terms. Now, if they came back and said 1%, then obviously I'd have to say that's not enough. And then I would reference, which we didn't have at the time, this sliding scale that the Rotary Club's been utilizing at charitable or city or charitable events for years.
Did they pay a booth fee?
No,
So they didn't even pay the $100?
they've made a commitment. Yes, we'll pay whatever booth fee ultimately the commission desires. They didn't balk at that at all. It was just more the revenue sharing, and the key points were how much or what percentage, and then is that going to apply to everyone else?
I guess my question would be I would like to know how much they've sold in the past. And I think that would have to be, they're a nonprofit that has to be in their budget as where they got their money from. That's what should be. I don't know. I run a charity. I know that that's something that would be listed in their books. So we should know how much they've made in the last few years so we could kind of base it on what percentage we think we deserve.
Well, he was quite, I think he was quite honest with us in regards to like last year, based upon all the revenues collected and all of their expenditures. I think he quoted a price of, they came out ahead about $2,500. So as a not-for-profit, that's probably pretty good, because they met all of their obligations and still had a little in the black, so to speak.
And we wouldn't involve any of their 50-50 thing they had at all. We would not do that at all.
No, we're actually encouraging that. We thought that suggestion on your part, Ms. Stelling, was an excellent one. That seemed very popular, and I know Ms. Chansky has said that's, something she sees a lot in different events when she was involved, I think at Ellisville or so. So
Well, I
I
know
think we
that,
should.
Pond had their own 50/50 in their booth. And they raised a lot of money because I know we bought $20, whatever. So I know that, I mean, which is, we wouldn't take a percentage of that. though.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We were like, again, we were thinking we'd have our own just for the standpoint, and we were going to do a test run at the first summer concert series, see how it works out.
Yeah.
Well, they do it at every hockey game. Every Blues game has it
Yeah.
for their cause. Every Cardinal game has it too. So, they have signs and they go around and have people do 50/50 tickets. So
We thought it was a great suggestion because there seems to be very popular and people like to participate. So it seems like a winning success. I don't know how much we would collect, but certainly if the numbers work out like we hope, we're so close to that $30,000 threshold that we've been asked to meet. Just maybe something like that will kick us right there.
Mr. Siebert.
Well, Vicky, I agree with you concerning the beer vendor, that the beer vendor should, in my opinion, provide the city with a portion of their proceeds or profit. And the food vendors should not, because I think to compare the beer vendors and the food vendors is inappropriate. The food vendor takes a risk. He has to buy product, he has to cook product, he has to sell product, he has to absorb losses. Where the beer vendor, it's more or less a gift. And their risk is they need to show up and they need to pour beer. And so I think excluding the food vendors in terms of this revenue sharing is appropriate. I think including the beer vendors is highly appropriate, but I'd like to put a different little wrinkle in, okay? Because I think the beer concession is a plum. And that plum has been enjoyed by the Pond Athletic Association for as long as we've been having this event, I guess. So, and I suspect that if you ask other organizations in Wildwood, there'd be a dozen that would be more than willing to show up, staff a beer booth and pour beer. So going forward, why don't we rotate different organizations in that beer concession? I'm sure the Boy Scouts, I'm sure other organizations would be more than happy to staff a beer concession and reap the benefit. And so we can identify a half a dozen organizations, rotate in and out every year, a different organization, and allow others to enjoy this this event and the monies that it can raise.
Thank you. Anyone else? Karen?
I think I was going back to thinking when you're saying about $100 for the nonprofit. So we would charge the Wildwood Historical Society $100.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I would think even some of the others, the churches and stuff, I just I have a little problem with that, with the $100 for those, but I don't know. I don't know if they have money making events. I'm just not sure. But maybe $50, but I think if you think we could try it one year and see if it works, I guess, and see if we get a lot of pullback. I'm not sure. So.
Well, I know, Mr. Jelling, with COVID, the Wildwood Historical Society struggled, and there were a lot of people that stepped up and gave extra amounts to help them carry them through the COVID and the pandemic and all the things that they did to raise money. And certainly we took that into account when we had our discussion, but it's difficult to tell one entity, you have to pay $100, and then they hear from somebody, listening to somebody else talk, well, we didn't pay anything. So we just thought a fair or level playing field was the best approach. And certainly if there are hardships, those are the things we can bring to the commission and you can make the decision. It's like, yeah, we've heard from such and so that it's really not a good time for that amount of money. You can make that decision. And I think that's a fair approach to it, but I think we, the Department of Planning and Parks would argue, let's try it across the board first. What we found though is for years, we didn't charge for our early childhood recreation programs. We went to a $5 charge and our attendance the first year dropped by 50% for $5. So yeah, we may find out that, no matter what the charge, if it's, we know $50 works, maybe it's 75, maybe it's 100. That's your call. If you want to maybe do it in steps, but at this stage, if we've got to reach $30,000, we thought $100 was a good way to get there.
I have one question. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many not-for-profits we had last year? How many not-for-profit booths we had last year?
I think we had the list. 10. Well, I counted 10, but I counted quickly, so bear with me. And one was Pond Athletic Association.
Thank you.
I guess I fear kind of what you're saying is that what if we do this and we get to our celebration, we don't have any food vendors or anybody there? I'm kind of nervous about that. I would be afraid that, I don't know. That's just a risk you gotta take that first year, but then we can go back to the council and say, hey, we can't raise $30,000, guys, So I guess I have a little fear that we wouldn't get participation.
As we do, I'll tell the commission, we were surprised by the response to $5. And, we used to open those sessions. We'd have 2 on 2 days, 2 successive days, and we fill them almost immediately. Now they're open until the day of the event almost, unless it's like the train ride down on the WF&P along the Merrimack River. That seems to fill about the same, but like I say, it's hard to know how people will react to the charge. I think what we're going to try to do, if the commission supports the amount, is to try to basically advertise it that, we're doing more because we're asking more. We're going to do more advertisement. We're going to try to do these things so that we can guarantee you a good turnout, weather dependent, of course, that will justify the money and hopefully capture more, not less, from your sales, whatever you are there for.
Kind of in tune with paying more, like the grocery store, everything's more right now. So maybe they'd be more accepting of it or figure that just went up too.
I don't know if this is the successful formula, but based upon the direction we received, the questions you all asked, the research we did, we think we can get pretty close to that $30,000 goal.
I think most people want that celebration here. I think they all enjoy it. So.
Well, we've challenged, like Chris and Stacy have been talking to the lady that manages Jolly Jumps, and we've challenged them to do more. We're paying a little more, but they're going to do more, and they're going to create like a kid zone so that it's a separate entry for the little kids, and they'll have some special things there for them. We're having the foam guns back, and she recommended that we advertise that heavily because when other communities have done that, it really brings a lot of people. You specify the time, it just creates a surge of people during that span, that hour span. We'll have it for 2 hours, 1 hour each. So we're going to try to do some things that maybe I felt like we've always tried to earn our keep on advertising the event, but obviously if we're asking more of the the participants, we need to do as much as we can to ensure their success.
Karen?
So when you talk to like the Lafayette High School and the different craft, do they sell out at $100? Do you have an idea? I mean, I thought it was very crowded this year. I went to it, but I just was wondering if you knew.
So I've attended as a crafter, actually, for a few years at Lafayette and at the country clubs in the winter. And those fees for one day, and they're not even a full day, they're very similar to anywhere from 75 to 125. And then, you know, they ask, do you want electricity, and do you want an end cap? And they keep adding more fees on with that. So with the $100 and the whole, you get the table and the chairs already set up. It's no different from all the others. And I did those 5 years ago.
Okay.
So they were the same fees. And yeah, at Lafayette, it was very full. And I've done Parkway South, and that was full as well. And they say they do give an early bird registration, which we're not giving, but the early bird is like right now for their actually the early bird is right after their event just to sign up for the next year. And then it cuts off pretty early.
Maybe that's a thought for 2024.
I was gonna, I kind of agree with about the food trucks or the food vendors. I think everybody kind of expects the price to go up, and what I think they would possibly do is just pass that expense, raise their prices, so.
That is the nature of inflation.
Yeah, and we inflate ourselves, I know, but.
But, you know, we've been challenged by city council, so I make light of it, but I agree. If we ask more, they'll probably ask more as well. And hopefully it's a nominal amount and it won't affect their sales, but if they want this venue to continue and have this opportunity on what I believe is one of the better weekends in the fall, then hopefully they'll justify the $100 expense.
So Joe, up to this point, we've been, talking about raising the bridge and not lowering the water. And so I've had conversations with various people in the community, and I'm going to ask you a question, and depending upon your answer, I have comment. And I know we have an evening band that everyone looks forward to. There's fireworks. It's a very festive time. But don't we bring a band in the afternoon as well? And so the response I got from some of the folks that I talked to that come to the event is in the evening, it's like going to a concert. You listen, you pay attention. In the afternoon, it's like going to a lounge, and it's just background noise. And for that background noise, we pay a pretty substantial amount of money. So the response that I was given was if we want background noise, rather than pay retail, why don't we pay wholesale? Meaning, why don't we just pipe in some music and only have a live band in the evening where people are focused on the band and not focused on other things. This person said to me, or these people said to me, that typically in the afternoon, you don't have a lot of people sitting there staring at the band, and they're focused on other things. And it's nice to have some background music, but it would be nicer to have more money in the budget for other things, and cut the band concession from 2 to 1. I would just wonder how people would feel about that.
Well, if I may, before you
go ahead,
all
Mr.
provide a
Greenwich.
response, traditionally, that band in the afternoon has been around $1,000. So it's very inexpensive. So like last year, we had 3 musicians. It's about $250 an hour. So from that perspective, we have always, most of those bands are very much localized. They're good bands in my opinion, but they never seem to charge as much as I think they would for the time. I think they want the exposure. It has been. Yes, ma'am.
I also, I was there from 9 till whatever. I stayed all day, and there was a long time we sat out, and it would have been nice to have more music. And actually in the afternoon, we liked the morning band, and then we sat there for a long time. And I just thought, I was kind of hoping we'd get a third band, but I mean, I just thought there's a long lag when there's no music. Maybe it wasn't being piped in or something. So so you sat at the beer garden, people stay around for the music. I really think they do. So.
There's an explanation. The last 2 years, and we had a group from Nashville, which was a particular disaster, and then we had Britby. These larger bands, they like to spend a lot of time preparing their instruments and sound to get the perfect, I guess, pitch or what they need in terms of their what they believe the audience needs. So that's why there's that lag of about 2.5 to 3 hours, because they're doing all the sound tests, they're setting up, etc. And we can't pipe music in because then it interferes with their testing of the instruments, the speakers, etc. So it's the problem we have with just one stage and one setup. We can't transition as quickly as we want. So that would be solved if we just went to piped in music during the morning and afternoon hours. But like I say, and this year we think we have a very good band, the 80s band. It comes highly recommended, but they're much, much less expensive than what we've had in the past.
And just for the record, the 80s music is some of the best music. I'm just going to go that there.
Got it. I'll ask the mayor to introduce them as such.
You can understand the lyrics.
Okay, so we are, what do you need from us on regarding just this part? Because I have a comment about the sponsorship stuff.
So what I've been advised by Stacy and Chris is that there is a great deal of interest already in signing up for the event. And so we'd like to open up the registration for the crafters, artists, authors, everyone. So the department respectfully request a motion, second, and voice vote to establish the $100 fee for all participants. Additional $50 for an extra space and $25 for the rental of the tent. The revenue sharing component I'll have ready for you in April.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we agree to the $100 fee with the additional space at 50 and the $25 for the tent. And as far as the revenue sharing, you don't need anything in the motion right now, but I would like to just go on the record and say that I would agree to the revenue sharing for alcohol, but not for food.
And that's fine. If you want to make that part of the motion,
I
I
do.
just don't know the percentage yet. And I'm gonna, like I say, I'm waiting for Pond Athletic to tell me what they think is reasonable, and then I'll relay that to you and advise you that it's not reasonable or it is reasonable. I hope they understand our predicament and come back with a reasonable percentage. But if they don't, then I think it's our responsibility, particularly the commission members, to ensure that percentage is reasonable.
Okay, so that's my motion. Do we have a second? Karen, seconds. Do you need a roll call vote, please?
Voice.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Carries.
So for the commission's benefit, shortly hereafter, we'll have the registration open for all of the participants with the new information and the new cost.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vintage, do you want to talk about sponsorship levels?
Yes, ma'am. Again, and this is a collective effort between Stacy, Chris, and I. Obviously, we've been successful with sponsorships over the years. As you know, they've ranged In certain years, when as low as about $11,000 to $12,000 on up to a couple of years where we exceeded $20,000. Those years were when Meridian Waste Service basically paid for the fireworks, which was a very generous gift to the city, and it was done primarily by the owner of the company, Chuck. So we don't get that anymore from Waste Connection. Last year, we had 6 sponsorship levels. Last year, we attempted to lower the sponsorship levels to see if we could gain more participation. So that's why you see we have the $50 level, which for the most part, I think last meeting, we noted we had 1 person participate at that level. So at our last meeting, the commission offered the following suggestions: eliminate the $50 sponsorship because there wasn't much interest in it, obviously. Increase sponsorship level fees, and you'll see that again. Market sponsorships to families and include food tickets, parking pass, close stage seating as incentives. Market sponsorships to the subdivisions with a banner, spot in the parade, or a trolley from the subdivision to event as an incentive. Open sponsorships to businesses outside Wildwood. We have never done that. And then set the guidelines for potential sponsors. That's something we'll need to do if we do go outside the city per se. So as you can see, we provided last year's. We've made no changes to it, but we are recommending the $50 sponsorship be removed. And then you can see on the table on the back of the memorandum what each sponsorship provides to that person, entity, or company. And with that, if you'd like to provide some direction, we'd be glad to accept that direction and incorporate it and do our best to make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you. Is there a way that for sponsorship banners to be placed any place else in Wildwood? Now, hot ticket, I know, I mean, hot button item, I know, but I meant like down in the industrial area. Are we allowed to put signs down there for Wildwood businesses that purchased a banner as opposed, like if that was an option? I don't know if that's possible, but if that were an option to say you can get a banner and it can go on Main Street where everybody that comes to our event can see it, or we can put it for the month preceding this event or whatever down on this area, or is that an option at all?
If it is a city right of way and there's a pole that the city owns or some type of attachment in the right of way, certainly.
What about on Clayton Road?
That is a county arterial.
Okay, so it's gotta be a city road.
Yes.
So down in the industrial area, is there a city road like it?
Unfortunately, North Etherton Road is a St. Louis County arterial as well. But I think the suggestion might be able to be just tweaked a bit. Let's say Fix Supply Services wants to sponsor something. Well, we put a banner on his business down there.
Right.
And so from that perspective, people that visit the business know he's a sponsor of the City of Wildwood event. And he's doing, and maybe he gets a smaller banner for his business and we do the regular banner here. So he gets 2. There's an
Right.
additional cost, but maybe that's a way to get more participation for the business community.
Well, what about the corner of Clark, Clayton and Strecker? That's another commercial area.
Strecker Road, we could. That's a city.
So there, I mean, that's an idea, just
Well, that's.
to kind of put,
That's it.
see, well, there's Zix and there's all those businesses there, but there are places. I'm talking about just to get another visual for a business that pays that for a sponsorship. If they said, we'd like to get our, visual out someplace in addition. Plus, if those banners were out in those other areas, I believe that might be a visual reminder to draw more people from Wildwood in. Like I'm dreaming, right? So.
Well, as I say, if it's a city right of way and if there's a street light, street sign or something that we can attach it to, certainly that's an option. Obviously, we'll look at site distance issues and the site distance triangle and things like that. But it's a good point. Maybe a business that Clayton and Strecker Roads would like to have something that recognizes them there, that they're a participant in this event. And then if we do that, maybe it's just a step away from, can you put some stuff in your store or your business advertising for us? That kind of thing.
Right, okay, so that would be my suggestion, and then just while you were talking, I was thinking about Lafayette High School and Eureka High School and the schools that are in Wildwood. Maybe they can't, I don't know if they can buy sponsorship or not, but could it be opened up to groups within the school, like Lafayette High School band sponsors and get some sort of recognition, or their whatever club sponsors? Is that something that we could offer to them?
We could certainly, unless the commissions that were to say no, we could certainly explore that. You know, the Key Club's been an active participant from Lafayette High School for years in our events. Obviously, the band, we had success with them when the event was in August.
Right.
There's just there's opportunities out there that we've never tapped into. So if you all want us to try that, we could certainly extend it, start at Lafayette and see their response.
Well, I hate to pile on to all the stuff that you guys do, because I know that you do so terribly much, but if the opportunity is there to investigate that, it would be looking for more money. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Thank you. Charlie, go ahead.
So this was something that we touched upon 2 months ago. And just remind me what we agreed to. And putting up the banners earlier and leaving them up later might be an incentive for more people to participate. And it might be a reason to charge a little more. It's a one and done event. But if you can tell the sponsors, you're going to be present for 60 days. And we think that's a beneficial investment on your behalf. Is that something that we do, or we could do, or we can't do?
Well, we've tried. I think last year we had a few of the business sponsors as early as June. And we went ahead and, as I recall, and had the banners made, and we were trying to get them up as early as August. Our contractor was a little hesitant because that meant he had to do it twice, this first batch. And then when the rest of them finally came along at I think it's the beginning of July, is the cutoff for the banner sponsorship. I can't remember.
Well, could we tell the sponsors, if you want to be up for 60 days, it's going to cost you whatever, an extra $25. If you want to be up for 30 days, given this two-tier situation that you're talking about. So would there be an incentive on the part of the sponsors? You approach the sponsors approach you. And so this is the program. You want to be up for 60 days, it's whatever it is. If you want to be up for 30 days, this is what it is. And we do it that way for logistical purposes.
Well, certainly we could advertise it as such and say, we'll guarantee you a 60-day window for an extra $50 and see how many people respond. I think we're pretty close to that right now, but like I say, if we.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I can't guarantee that, because like I say, over the years, we always get the inevitable, well, I forgot about it. I'll get it to you tomorrow. It's a week later, and we're always kind of chasing those last few because we want them to participate. And we certainly want them to have the opportunity, but that sometimes delays us. Like I say, we have a couple of new contractors this year, so hopefully the situation will be a little different when we ask them, can you do this now versus later, and et cetera, et cetera. Because, with our previous contractor, they were doing, his company was doing many, many things, cutting right of way, cleaning parks, doing this, doing that. So hopefully maybe with two now, we'll have a little bit more time and flexibility.
Okay.
It's really up to the commission if you want to try something like that.
Deborah?
Yes,
Go ahead.
thank you. Well, I'm very, very new to all of this, so it's a little bit over my head, but I was just wondering, like, Schnooks and Deerbergs, do they typically sponsor a certain aspect of the Wildwood Days?
Deerbergs provides a $50 check. And Schnucks usually allows us to use their facility to start the parade. And do they donate anything? No.
Man, I was just thinking, we have these, and I don't know, this might be tacky, I don't know, but we have these really pretty walkway overpasses. That could almost be offered up for a really nice banner that would be up over, is that tacky? I don't know. Over
It's
the
not
road.
tacky. I would love to do it, but I'd get arrested by the State Highway Patrol because it's mowed
well,
out right away.
Never mind then.
I'm kidding, I would, but one of the things, for us to use the airspace over the state right of way, we had to sign an agreement, and the agreement said we wouldn't post anything on the bridges because they view it as a distraction to the drivers.
That's probably true, so that we'll just strike that comment, but
It's on YouTube.
It would be great though, because
they're pretty overpasses, and it could be something very decorative and festive, but I see your point. If someone gets distracted, they could.
well,
have
you
issues.
just never know what people will blame, why, they're on their phone, but oh, by the way, I saw your banner and that's why I ran into somebody, That'd be our luck. I'd love to do it. Don't ever think it's a bad idea. It's just, and I've often thought, well, I could put it up Saturday morning. Nobody's working at the state on Saturday. I'd have it down on Saturday night. What's the harm? So.
Karen,
We have parks all over in different places in our city, and I think we could put signs, banners at the parks. I mean, you get them on the bike, people on their bikes. I think we put them around the parks. I think that's a good place to put them. That's all our property, so.
And we can, for example, Bluffview Park and Al Foster Memorial Trail. There's people there all the time from before 6 a.m. till now after 10 p.m. And it's just a great opportunity. And what I'd like to do, and I know this is probably a little bit more than we wanted to get into, but if we were going to do something in our parks, I actually like to change the banner style to make it more complement, let's say, a park setting versus downtown town center. It could do something that's, I think, advertises our parks, advertises the sponsor, and I think it'd be fun, actually.
Well, you look at the kids' park, if you put it, said, we have a kids section at Wildwood Celebration,
Yeah. Advertise at our playground like this, come on over.
right. Anyone else? Oh, Kristen's, I'm sorry.
Just something real quick. Hometown Heroes banners will be up at Labor Day. So that will kind of cut into.
Well, Chris makes a good point. The Hometown Heroes Banner Program will be kicking off on Memorial Day, and then we'll do Veterans Day. So the window actually is 60 days. So hopefully we won't have the conflict, but the majority of those banners will be placed on Manchester Road between the Taylor Road roundabout and basically Otherton Road, or where the old city hall was.
Is that like Baldwin's?
It's more like Manchester. We're mirroring their
Yeah.
program.
Okay.
And so most of our banners have always been placed on Taylor Road. And then as we've grown in sponsorships, if we need, we go down Main Street. So Chris makes a very good point. We may have a little conflict down at the Taylor Road roundabout, but maybe we can work around that a little.
So that would kind of play into what we're talking about here about maybe offering people, would you like to be featured in a park area? Would you like a sign on your business, like down in the valley? Or, I mean, so that maybe, since you guys don't have enough to do, you could figure out another thing, maybe figure out some sort of, give them an opportunity, say, check the box, where would you like for your sign to be? And then I don't know.
I like the idea, and if there was a motion and second and voice votes to direct us to formulate a program for review in April, we'll be glad to do it.
All right. Do we have any motions? Would you like to make a motion? No? Okay, I'll make a motion to everything we just talked about.
Actually, I don't think the committee's supposed to make the motion.
Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Charlie makes the
Everything we
motion.
just talked about.
There you go. Anybody want to second it?
So second.
Deborah seconds. All in favor? Any
Everything.
opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll see what we can come up with and hopefully you'll like what you see in April.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Vunich, would you like to talk about the parade?
So Madam Chair and members of the commission, as you know, in January, the department provided you a table. That table is inclusive on this memorandum. And there were the components of the parade. And I described it at that time at the January meeting that over the course of the year, we'll go through all of these different components and address them all as we need. Tonight, the department has identified two of those component summaries. And the first is the theme for the parade. And then secondly, the components of the parade. The department, and I'll take responsibility because when I showed the themes that I suggested to Stacy and Chris, I think that the reaction I was hoping for. In fact, I got the reaction I expected, quite frankly. But saying that, we need a theme. And then obviously the components, I basically went back through the parade lineup last year and identified the principal participants. And so as you can see, we start out with the honor guards. We start out with the Shriners and their horses and the flags. We go to the dignitaries, et cetera, et cetera. So tonight, we're hoping to have a theme formulated that we can then kind of talk about. And then secondly, review the components. And if the department's missed any, let's add them in tonight.
Would anyone in the room like to throw out a theme idea? Deborah.
Well, I don't know. St. Louis is kind of known for jazz and blues, right? We had the Scott Joplin and things like that. Have you already done that in the past that I've missed it?
We have not, but the last 2 years, we've hired a jazz band in lieu of the Lafayette High School band to participate.
They were really good last year.
So
So what would the theme be?
Well, I would have to work something into it, but I had been to this really great concert at Christmas and it was called the Funky Butt Band. And so they play music. Oh, you know them? They play music out of New Orleans. They also play the rock and the pop and all that. And they've even gone into schools, so they make it appropriate to, say families or whatever. And it was just amazing. The concert was so good. And I was, they are a local band. I don't know what they charge, but that would be a cool venue, I think. And that's just a suggestion. I don't know. But St. Louis is kind of rather known for jazz and blues and all that. Just a thought.
thank you, ma'am.
Any opinions?
Mr. Brindage, didn't we already take a walk on the Wildwood side? And then we did Wildwood 25+1, get your kicks and retreat. Those are the three that I remember.
Yes. And obviously we had the COVID year where we didn't do any, but yes, we took a walk on the wild side, which was kind of focusing on the nature aspect of Wildwood, as I recall. Some of the floats had the trees they had made and things like that. Then we did the anniversary, which was +1. And then last year was Route 66 to coincide with our efforts there.
So I don't have a calendar, but are there any cool things happening this year?
I was just
Like a solar eclipse or?
something about Wildwood, 100 years or whatever, something in this area. We kind of.
Stacy keeps laughing. No. Okay, Stacy has an idea. Go.
My one idea was because we're kicking off the hometown hero banners, we would maybe do something Americana with hometown hero support.
Oh, I like that.
So something, let's say, veteran military service orientated.
Mhm.
Back home again in Wildwood.
And if we're lucky, we might be able to contact some of the local VFWs or some of the military in town and ask them if they'd like to participate.
Or like Wildwood Protects and Serves, or
That's a like.
I would honor them as well. I'm all for firemen and policemen and military and
So first responders
Nope,
and
I'm sorry.
military, or
well, I think that all of this, I'm going to tell you what, if I get hurt, I'm calling a policeman. And if I need an ambulance, I'm calling the fire department. So I'm all for honoring them. Charlie, go ahead.
So, I mean, this is kind of a stretch because we're 35 miles from the river, right? But we're not that far from the Merrimack River. So,
Or Missouri,
or
right?
the Missouri. So, I mean, this is a river town. And if you lived in the city of St. Louis, or if you lived in Webster or Kirkwood, it's probably more appropriate because you're closer to the river. But I mean, this community started, the greater community started because of the river and our rivers. And so where the river started or stopped, St. Louis or Wildwood began, something like that. It's a stretch because we're, I don't think we think of ourselves as
No.
out here.
How about Between Two Rivers? That sound like a good book? Between Two Rivers, something like that.
But what I'm basically suggesting is some type of a river theme.
Yeah.
And if anything, it would educate people that this is really a river community. And without the river, St. Louis wouldn't have started, and none of this probably would have happened. This still would have been farmland.
for the most part, Missouri River defines our northern boundary and the
Right.
Merrimack defines our southern boundary.
Right.
Between Two Rivers.
Oh, that's what you meant.
What did you say, Vicky?
I did just make that up. It just sounded like a book, but yes, I did make it.
Between Two Rivers? Have you ever seen the confluence?
Yes.
It's underwhelming.
Still. What else besides deer? I don't want to do anything with the deer and thing.
No deer.
Anybody else? Do we have to have a theme tonight, Mr. Greenwich?
No. If you feel comfortable with one of the suggestions, sure. But we have a little time. The parade is,
Let us think about it just
okay.
a little bit.
Then I would ask you also just to look at the components that are identified. I think there's 14 of them that are on the list that Stacy, Chris, and I put together. If you could look at those as you're thinking about the theme, and if there's any additions or things you would like to see, particularly if the theme is, if you have a theme in mind, then
I'm just trying to figure out how to get water on a golf cart. So let's make a river. Sorry.
I'll make them all canoes and we'll have paddles.
there you are, put a canoe on top of it. So,
I ain't sitting in the
but I
canoe.
think for the purposes of tonight, yes, if you just want to review the memorandum, and then for the April meeting, bring your suggestions or your recommendations or additions, that'd be great.
Well, Mr. Greenwich, I was looking at the components here. The only thing that I would have a comment on as far as that goes would be clowns and jugglers walking in the parade. It just is such a short route. And when we have people walking, it slows it down so much. That is just, last year was way better than the year before, but the year before it was rough for people getting in and out
Yes,
of the
right.
cars. So,
The dancers are all walking too.
yeah, but they kind of move, but that's just my thought. I'm not saying no, but that is just an observation.
I didn't notice the clowns and jugglers slowing us down, did they last year?
I'm sorry.
Did the clowns and snow and jugglers slow us down last year?
Juggling Jeff will be in the parade this year. He'll walk the entire route doing what he does best. And yes, you can add the clowns.
Are the cars gonna be there? I
The
like
Shriner
the
mini
cars,
cards,
yeah.
yes. We're
So
anticipating
it could be
that.
just placement then, right?
Pardon, ma'am?
Placement where you place them would, it would help.
Yeah, this isn't necessary. I did it by placement just because that was an easy way to remember all of it.
Mhm.
But certainly, yes, it's.
I don't see the commission cars in there.
Oh, good one.
We wouldn't have to decorate them.
Yeah.
Ricky likes to. so.
Yeah,
My
but Sharon said she
apologies
won't
to
ride the
all of you.
canoe. So
Apologies.
to rethink it now.
You like that canoe idea?
Mr. Jelling, it is now on the list.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you
You're
know.
welcome. Thanks for reminding.
I'm like, maybe we're under the elected officials, but I don't think I'm elected, so. I guess dignitaries.
Well, as I say, if you would do a little homework,
I
maybe
think
over the next
that
month.
was a good thing. Something rivers.
Okay, update on activities? Any or
Well, Madam Chair, as you know, we provide this to you each month as we have our meetings. We've made some headway on some of the major items. Most of the contracts have been completed, been reviewed by the city attorney and or the city administrator and provided to the companies or individuals that were engaging for the event. Some of the things we haven't started yet because in the case of like sponsorships or vendors and opening registration, we needed a little more direction from all of you. And we'll add the parade to that as well tonight. But if there are any questions on any of the items on the update, Stacy, Chris, and I'd be glad to try to answer them at this time.
thank you. Do we have any questions?
I just have one, and this probably, after I attended last year, someone had said to me, why isn't there more cars in that car show? And there were only 2. And of course, I wasn't on the commission. I don't know anything about it, but would that be something we could parlay into a bigger event? Because I've seen a lot of, at the one restaurant out 100, they get a lot of these older cars, when and people go to look at them. Is that something that would benefit more?
Yes, I think you're talking of Stovall's and Stovall Grove out there on
Yeah,
100.
and that other one, oh, gosh, I can't
Big
think of
Chief?
that historic, yes, that one. Yeah,
And the one at Stovall's, that's a joint effort between the St. Louis Car Club and the
Mhm.
Wildwood Historical Society.
Uh-huh.
They use that as a fundraiser.
oh, okay.
And the gentleman that organizes the car component for that event used to be on our city council. And when he was on the city council, we always had a fair share of our cars in the parade.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we also had a nice car show.
Yeah,
They would stay, open up their hoods and.
a lot of people really like that. And someone had said to me, well, how come there's only 2? And I go, I really don't know.
Well, with Route 66 last year, we were kind of getting vintage cars. I believe friend of Chris's. No, it was Melanie, the assistant director. He brought a truck that was very nice,
Oh, yeah.
restored beautifully, and it was leaking gas like a sieve. So we
Oh.
felt, we maybe shouldn't have that in the parade. So-
Yeah.
You
So-
could have Hoffman bring some of his antique cars he's got sitting around Augusta over for the show.
Well,
So
do you-
I think I had it. I don't remember, bear with me.
Do we have to think about doing the car show for the celebration?
Yeah, vintage and military vehicles, so I can add cars.
Well,
and-
I don't know. I mean, that was just somebody had said that to me.
No.
And do you like if people want to come and show their specific cars, do you charge them to park and, put the hood up or whatever? Do you have a fee for that?
We did in the past, because there is some, that the car club did much of the registration and the setup and things like that.
Okay.
And then they offered prizes as well. So part of that fee went to the prizes, first, second, and third in the different
yeah.
classifications. We usually set them up in front of the theater
Mm-hmm.
and here at City Hall, because of the space they need, we didn't have them necessarily down at the main fairgrounds because
Right,
it
they
would
were
take,
there
yeah.
because we were looking at them. and-
Yep.
Yeah.
so we can certainly look into that.
Well, I don't know if that'd be something, the guys would really like to look at with kids, love to look at cars.
Could be another fundraiser to get that $10,000, a car show.
We'll try anything right now, right?
Right.
Thanks
know
for
what
the
you think.
suggestion.
You would do it anymore? Would he be involved with anything up here?
He's kind of been
Said right
distant
now.
of late. I wouldn't say he would necessarily do it, but I can certainly ask.
You'd be
Oh.
interested in doing for a celebration, a
Yeah.
car show that we, I don't know, he might.
He might, and I've been told no many times, so it doesn't necessarily stop. me. So we'll see what we can do. Any other items on the update?
Okay, moving on. How about update on the village green, please? Mr. Greenwich?
Well, as you know, we are the Department of Parks, but we are also the Department of Planning. So we were looking ahead just to kind of update you on Village Green because based upon the comments we've received relative to the proposal that's being considered by our Planning and Zoning Commission east of the theater, the likelihood of it being available in 2024 is very, very slim. In fact, I've had a couple of conversations with the development entities that are looking at the different components. And it seems much further along than the Pride and Place ever was at this stage. So what I thought would be appropriate is just kind of update you on Village Green. We've applied for 3 different grants. Each of the grants were in excess of $1 million. The first grant was not favorably reviewed and we did not receive the funding. The other 2 are still under review by the state of Missouri, one, the Department of Natural Resources, and the other by the Department of Economic Development. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. If either of those grants come through, we can build phase 1 and we can do it, I think, in time for our event in September 2024. Kind of get you an update on the bidding process. CDI, Civil Design Incorporated, along with Human Nature, a company out of Cincinnati, Ohio, are completing the design specifications, the engineered plans, and the bid specifications for the phase 1 project. Phase 1 project will allow us basically to create the oval. The oval will be the area where we can basically place all of the tents. They'll be at the front or the east end of the oval. There will be where the stage is set up. And so it will work out very well. It will be almost, in my opinion, like an amphitheater, so to speak. The way the grade is being proposed in the oval, people in the back will have a higher elevation than the people in the front. We're at about 70% completion on those plans. I expect to have those this month, early this month. 70% basically is the last step before the final plans are complete. So although it's 70%, you might think, well, there's still a lot to do. It jumps from there to here's the set, final copy. If we don't get the grants, we do have money in the budget. It's approximately $1 million. It's not enough to complete phase 1. So eventually a decision will have to be made by the city council if we want to try to get as much of the oval and access built so we can have the event there in 2024. So all will not be lost if the grants are not approved, but it certainly would be nice to get one or if not both of them. Are there any questions that you have for Stacy, Chris, or I about the Village Green?
Karen?
So we're set okay for next year where we were for 23.
23, we are good as gold. I talked to the owner. The ownership group is Greenberg Development. The individual, one of the 2 partners is Ed Cohn, who owns the theater as well. And he said, I won't be ready to go until 2024. So we're good as gold for this year.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, that was probably the first call I made right after the first of the year. It's like, and Ms. Helfrey serves with Mr. Cohn, so I'm sure if necessary, she could twist an arm or 2 while they're at the dais one night. So,
Know about all that. Anybody else? No? Okay, so the next item says that our next meeting date is Wednesday, April 5th at 6 p.m. here in person And before we adjourn, I just want to say, well, first of all, will you have something to say?
Yes. As much as we try to be consistent with the meeting dates, we found that we have a conflict with municipal court in April and May. They have the facility on the first Wednesday of the month. We've talked with the city clerk that manages the scheduling. So in April, we would ask that we could meet on April 8th, which is the second Wednesday. And then in May, again, the second Wednesday in May.
That would be the time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We apologize. Like I say, we do a municipal calendar as one of the last
It'll be our
things. in
next
the-
meeting.
When is Easter?
April 7th.
No,
Pardon?
Did you say April 8th?
I think that was the,
That's a Saturday.
oh.
Yeah, that's
that
okay.
was-
April 9th is Easter. I'm sorry. April 9th is
Oh,
Easter.
pardon me. Okay, let me restart this. Thanks. So April, we're kind of in a flux because the court has both the first Wednesday and the second Wednesday in April.
Okay.
So in May and June, we would meet on May 10th, June 14th. April, we'll send out a list of dates, maybe 2 or 3 to you all and see what works for the majority.
okay.
I apologize. So April, we'll get you some information on what's available in terms of the building and other meetings. But in May and June, we'd like to do the second Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. And Madam
Okay.
Chair, that's all I have tonight. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, before we adjourn, I would just like to tell you how very grateful I am for the staff of the city Parks and Planning, because you all are wonderful and I appreciate everything you do. So would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Sharon? Any- Seconded.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, that's it. It's over.
Thank you all.